Hello, Geki here. Welcome to my review of Rising Sun and designed by Eric Lang for Culminionat with art by Adrian Smith. The Kickstarter version just came out, the retail version is coming in a month or so. During my review, as usual, I will first give you a quick overlook of how the game works without going into the details of each rule. It's not an how to play learning video. Then I will move into art and components, general thoughts on the game, and some historical or contextual comparison. In this case, I will mention Blood Rage in particular, which is the other big game, but the same theme of design and publisher and artist. So to start off with a general overview, Rising Sun is played on this massive board that is an historical map of Japan, more or less. And it's a game of area control, conflict, and some kind of added special powers and battle resolution for added flavor. Other things that will be noticeable in our explanation will be a honor track here, an action track here in the middle, and a shrine or temple track up here. So during each of the three ages of the game, there is a fourth one which is basically endgame scoring. During each of the three ages in the game, players will be taking turns activating 7 political mandates. There are 5 of them that do very basic things. The general idea a la San Juan or Puerto Rico or things like that is you take something, everybody takes an action, you take it in a stronger way. For example, recruit lets you put troops on the map. Depending on where you have strongholds, you can put on more warriors or leaders, etc. Each clan comes with warriors, leaders, Shintos in different colors. Each clan corresponds to a color so that they're easily distinguishable. Very smart thing was also that they put different color bases for different roles in the game. So this is a clan leader for the blue clan, and this is a priest, a Shinto, for the red clan, and you can see this is instead a warrior for the blue clan. So you can immediately tell what player they belong to, but also what role they fulfill in the game without having to look at the details of the miniatures. Very easy and still very beautiful on the board. So as we said, you can recruit staff, you can marshal people around to take control of different provinces. You also use this to buy strongholds. You can harvest when you are in control of a province. You can immediately gain some very good benefits that can either be endgame points or coins, and coins, as we'll see in a moment, will be the motor, the engine of your fighting. You can train, which is where the very cool mini or not kind of game comes in, with a bunch of upgrades that give you special powers or that bring into play very cool monsters that join your faction. They get attached color base, they become yours, they are now your miniatures, and they can fight for you on the board, and you buy them with a corresponding card. Let's see if I can show you one. For example, if you recruit this guy during the train action by spending money, you can have this Army of Blood that does wonderful things for you, especially if you're low on honor, something I will explain in a moment. Finally, there is Betray, which is the most interesting different thing of this game. One thing that you can do at the beginning of each age is deciding who to ally with, which means joining your clan in a very nice cow symbol here. And in practical terms, that means that when one of you takes the mandate, activates the action, everybody takes the action, and both you and your ally enjoy the special benefit. When you betray something, you break the alliance with your ally, you go down in honor, and you can replace 2 miniatures belonging to 2 different players on the board with your own, so very strong. We mentioned honor. Honor is changed by betraying people, is also changed by other effects in the game. It's a comparative track where gaining honor means passing one person in front of you. There is not a value of honor. And that's an important element, because every time there is a tie in the game, whether it is in an effect or in a battle or in a bid, you get to break that. So honor and alliances is where theoretically the big negotiation part of the game comes in, because you can pay people to ally with you, you can convince your ally to do something by giving them something. I must say that compared to the preview of this that I have had, the negotiation part is not as prominent as it could be, and to me that's actually a good thing, but I will go into more details about that. So we mentioned that we go through these 7 out of 10 political mandates every age. So different players will have different number of turns in each age, but things tend to even out over the course of the game. There is also a temple track. At the beginning of each game, you will choose 4 temples, and that's it for the game. They have different effects. They can let you move up on the honor track, they can let you gain points, they can do a bunch of different things. The way it works is, when it's time to recruit troops, you can choose to skip recruiting priests on the board and place them instead on the temples, and 3 times during each age you evaluate who has majorities on the temple and they gain those advantages. Finally, you come to the battle phase, which is at the end of each age, so 3 battle phases, war phases in each game. 2 players or more, when involved in a battle, will secretly bid for different elements of the battle. You can see that here, the right to commit seppuku, apparently, taking hostages, hire Ronin, and then having imperial poets on their side. You basically secretly bid money, you reveal, and for each category in which you are the sole most bidder, or if you're tied, you are higher in honor, you activate the effect. Seppuku eliminates all of your troops but gives you points and honor. Take hostage steals 1 figure from the board, which removes strength from the battle and steals a point for an opponent. Ronins are tokens that you can acquire through the round. They are discarded at the beginning of each round, but they can add strength to your battle if and only if you win the category. Then you determine the outcome of the battle. Whoever has lost removes all of their minis. Whoever has won gets a control token for that province. These are worth a few points on their own, and then they are worth a lot of points if you have a big set of different ones at the end of the game, so that forces you to go around and fight. And the last thing you do is Imperial Poets. You can get additional points for winning. But in general, you're trying to outbid your opponent in the key things that you need to win. Whoever wins each battle will then distribute those spent coins among their opponents that are defeated in that battle, while they will simply lose their coins. And you move on to the next battle. There are always 2 more provinces than the number of players that will be contested every age, so not everything will be fought over every round, unless you're playing with a full complement of 6 players, which is only possible if you have the Kickstarter edition or if you get the Invasion or something like that expansion. So at the end of each age, there are a bunch of battles, you resolve them. There is a lot of back and forth because coins are constantly changing hand in the distribution of the post-battle. An interesting thing is that this is all done in secret, but you cannot fight your own ally. So if you are the only one beside your ally in a region, that's not fought. So if you are ahead of them in strength, or if they are ahead of you in strength, there is nothing you can do. So alliances are not simply always a good thing to you. So this is a general overview, very general, of the game. A few things that I wanted to notice. First, there is an interesting tension between the relatively low number of actions and the amount of things that you can do. At the beginning of the game, it seems like you will never have enough to do everything that you want, but after a while, between additional power coming from the cards and the fact that you're constantly doing something, plus the additional bonuses that people get from the shrine, the map and the game become very busy very quickly. At the same time, however, the pace remains extremely brisk. What you do on your turn is draw 4 cards for these mandates. They are cardboard tokens in the regular game and only plastic in the fancy Kickstarter version. You look at 4 of them, choose one, reveal it, carry it out. Then you move to the next one, to the next player, and they do the same. So that's the only real moment of big choice that you have, because once that's chosen, everyone is gonna take that action. And yes, there is some additional choosing in, especially what cards you want to gain when you train, or whether you want to place troops on the board or send Shintos to the shrines, but those are very quick, simple decisions. Vice versa, when it's your turn, you have 4 mandates again to choose from, but you have had time to think about it. Sometimes the one that you want will not be available, but you usually have a clear idea what to do, so the game doesn't take long in time or in pace to develop. The shrines provide a significant amount of variability, and so do the season cards, the cards that you can train for the gaining you special powers or these beautiful monsters. The miniatures are fantastic, and those are combined by a set that is regular, that is present in any game, some abilities that move the game along in a certain ways, and others nominally special monsters or some particular combination of cards that can be different in every game. Also, they are coded for each season, for each age, so that they progress in power, and that things that you get later in the game, they're more powerful, so they are still very relevant, although for just one age. I find the game surprisingly interesting. Surprisingly why? I'm not usually a great fan of area control games, so let me rephrase that. I usually like them, I enjoy the experience, but I find them very randomic from time to time, but most importantly, very dependent on simply what other people decide to do, who you decide to gang on, and things like that. This is not the case in this game, and I want to address what I mentioned before about the perceived negotiation heavy element of the game. While you could certainly make this a 4-hour long negotiate every decision that you make in the game, that seems to be not different from people that do that in Risk or games like that. While there are explicit provisions in the game allowing you to trade coins for advantages and things like that, that seems almost like an afterthought. One thing are the alliances, which are a perfectly well-structured mechanic in the game, reminding me of Dune or Rex, Twilight Imperium Rex, Final Days of the Empire, whatever it is, the new version of Dune. So the alliances are a good element of negotiation in the game. They are structured, they have specific moments in which they happen, and specific ways they betray token in which they are broken, and reason for which you would want to keep them, and reason for which you wouldn't want to have them. The generic you can give stuff to anyone for anything seems almost a raw, undeveloped element of the game. You have a limited number of coins. Most clans start every season with 5 to 7 coins. You don't have too many miniatures that you can move around. Sometimes even the things that you can ask are not particularly significant. Like, choose this mandate. If they like it, they will choose it anyhow. Otherwise, you will have to pay them so much that it's not worth your while. And in general, things tend to move forward despite the efforts of the rulebook to convince you that this needs to be a heavy negotiation game. You certainly cannot play this like a multiplayer solitaire, of course. It's a conflict game, it's an inter-conflict game, meaning it's often more than 2 players for the same province. Otherwise, it's a quite straightforward area control. So it reminds me much more of things like Inish than it does of Game of Thrones or Diplomacy. To me, that's a good thing, but consider that if that's not for you. Graphic and art-wise, I think you could have gathered both by seeing it and by my gashing at it. The miniatures are fantastic. For board game quality, I'm not a miniature gamer. I used to be in my youth, but I'm not anymore. The miniatures are of extreme quality and detail. They are sturdy enough that they stay solid on the board, but flexible enough that they don't break if you drop them. The additional Kickstarter tokens are incredibly high quality, but the basic cardboard is also sturdy and solid. That applies to, for example, strongholds that you put on the board, or on political mandates that are solid cardboard. Cards are well leaned and well finished. I like them a lot. It took me a while to get used to the minimalist style, or I would say the orientalist style in a way, of the game, but I came to like it. It's just that it wasn't my usual, I guess, Euro or Ameritrash style. Coins are solid plastic. Everything in the game is taken care of, is well thought out, well and solid. So what's left to say? So to compare it to other area control games, I already mentioned Diplomacy and Game of Thrones would be, for example, very sad games without the negotiation aspect. I think you could go through all of this without ever exchanging a coin and still have a very, very fun game. That didn't happen for the games that we had. Of course, you do use that element of the game, but it's not a main element. Compared to, for example, Kemet, monsters have less of an impact. They add some rules, but you can go through the game and focus on other things without necessarily having monsters or other abilities. But it does remind me of Kemet in that you can buy from a common pool and acquire things, and that's, for example, a big difference with Blood Rage, which will necessarily be the other title this will be compared to. Yes, there are monsters that come into play through the acquisition of cards, and there are different clans with slightly different powers. That's basically where the similarities end, because there is no draft. Buying from an open pool once when the mandate is activated is very different than forging your hand through drafting. Battles are resolved through coins that are an open resource that is then made secret only in phase of bidding, and it's a quantifiable resource and not a secret resource in your hand. Points are acquired in a very different way. There is no incentive to not fight to prevent someone from winning a battle like there was in Blood Rage. The games are very different. Certainly both warrant a place in a collection, in my collection at least. And I think they are both very good. So if you are a fan of Eric Lang's previous work, I'm sure you will find this of absolute quality. You might prefer Blood Rage, you might prefer Chaos in the Old World, where the asymmetric factions are much more asymmetric, or Blood Rage with the drafting and the even quicker pace than this. But you might, and you will probably do, very much like this one. If you are a general negotiation game fan, I think you will still like this, but find that it has much more to take care of that can sometimes distract you from the pure negotiation element of the game, compared to, for example, the placing of the orders with support in Game of Thrones, or the sheer you need support to go anywhere in Diplomacy. Here you can play your own game, and certainly if you completely ignore negotiation and everyone else is forming alliances and strategies against you, you're going to lose, but those are not required elements of your own performance in the game. And finally, if you do like area control, you will find that this is peculiar. Battles usually involve 3 to 4 miniatures for the strongest faction. Sometimes you're in there with one. There is a lot of bluffing with what am I going to spend my coins of? Will he spend the coins as I expect him to, or can I try to sneak in some weird back-ended attacks. I think it's a very solid game. I was certain about the quality of the components. That didn't shock me. It had been broadcasted. It was the reason I got the game for. But I was pleasantly surprised by the quick pace, the fun, and the solid design behind Rising Sun. I suggest you check it out. I also appreciate feedback for my review. Consider subscribing to my channel and see you around. Until next time, it's Geki, and this has been my review of Rising Sun. Have fun.